First off, I just want to mention this scarf was knitted by my mom. She is a big knitter. I love the stuff she makes me, and I personally think she should be selling it. Does anyone else agree with me? Anyway, that's beside the point. Today I'm sharing 9 ways I plan to simplify in 2024. The first thing I'm planning to do, which I've already kind of started, is to cook more often and more simply. I feel like I'm somebody that enjoys cooking so much so that when I start to cook, I end up making the whole process way more complicated than it really needs to be. And what that does is it ultimately leads me to order takeout or delivery way more often than I should, because I feel like every time I cook, I need to make this like amazing recipe with a bunch of different ingredients, all fresh ingredients, and it's not a good habit. I'm learning to be more okay with making meals that are just simple to make, that are probably just as delicious as ordering in. So examples for me are being okay with just having a simple pasta with a pre-made sauce, or when I make a side salad, just being okay with the greens themselves in a dressing, or greens with cucumber, and not needing to make a whole complicated salad. I feel like already Andy and I have been really into integrating more eating at home cooking, and it has really simplified our lives and helped us save some money. So that's something I think I'm going to prioritize in 2024. A second thing I'm going to try to do is to be more okay with not having a hobby. And not that I don't want to do things for fun or explore interests, but I feel like on some level, at least in the society I live in, there's a little bit of pressure to have a hobby, have some kind of interest outside of work that you're pursuing all the time. You know what? I feel like I don't need to put that pressure on myself. I'm instead going to focus on just enjoying the simple things like cooking, like maybe even coloring or drawing occasionally for fun, but I'm not going to pursue them as some kind of hobby officially. I'm just going to do it when I feel like it and not feel like I need to be doing it every single day. I feel like when we turn something into an official hobby, sometimes it can start to feel like a chore, because I feel like in this productivity environment, it feels like every hobby has to lead to something. And sometimes I've even felt that pressure after making my YouTube channel, where I first just started it thinking it was this like fun private thing that no one would ever find. It's turned into a job for me. And I don't want to feel like every hobby or interest I pursue needs to start to make me money, or that I need to get to a certain level of expertise at it. I just want to enjoy the things I'm doing for fun for the sake of it. A third thing I'm going to be working on to simplify my life is to gradually build new habits. And especially for me, it's in the realm of putting things away. I feel like putting things away is something that is so automatic or automatic not to do that it really takes some intentional retraining in order to do. But I think even if you make it easier to put something away, sometimes you're just in the habit of throwing something down, like your coat when you walk into the room or your purse on a shelf. And what I'm going to try to do is just pick like one habit a month that I'm going to focus on and try to retrain. So every time I walk in through the door, maybe for example, it would be, I'm going to make sure I set down my keys where I want to set them down, that I hang up my coat. That's the only thing I'm focused on changing habit-wise for this month, but I'm going to try to make that change. And then gradually I'll transition to other areas of my life, and hopefully by the end of the year, I'll see a little bit of a difference. Another way I'm going to try to simplify is to try to only purchase something when it's something that I've planned beforehand to buy. So if I see something online or I see something out and about in the moment, I'm going to really work to not buy that thing impulsively, but instead to sit on it and to wait and to purchase it later if I still want it. This actually happened to me recently the other day when I was in a beautiful boutique in Northeast Minneapolis, and I found this gorgeous winter hat that I just loved, and I felt like, oh, I really want to buy it in the moment, but I was like, no, Aylin, just don't buy it. You just saw it tonight. You don't need to buy it. And so I waited several days and I thought about it, and eventually I did decide to go back and buy it, but I was able to do it with more intention. I was able to figure out, like, do I need a hat? How would this hat really add to my life? And I realized that this particular hat did fill a hole in potentially being the warmest hat I would have for these cold Minnesota winters. And we're just about to go into winter, so I was like, okay, this does make sense. So I think basically creating more time from when I see something to when I buy it, and ideally not buying something unless I've actually been itching to buy it, like if I've been wanting or feeling a need for something beforehand. I don't want to just buy something because I think it's pretty. I want to buy something because it will genuinely serve me and my life and my future. Another thing I'm going to try to do to simplify my life is to focus more on deepening relationships as opposed to developing new relationships. And now, I don't mean to sound cold here. It's not as if I don't want to be open to new people. I want to be welcoming, especially if someone is, say, new in town and doesn't really have many connections and I meet them. I want to be open. But I think so often I prioritize the new relationships over the old ones just because the newer ones are a little bit more fragile or I'm just developing them for the first time. And then sometimes when I do that, I'm not putting as much effort into the relationships that really matter to me. And there is some research to support the idea that your deep relationships are really where people tend to derive the most of their happiness. And so if I've been neglecting the relationships that really matter to me, that's ultimately going to make me less happy. And so something I'm thinking about is just putting more effort into those long-term relationships that are important to me. I've already started to try to do this a little bit, like I'm setting up a Zoom hangout with some of my grad school friends this week just to reconnect because I haven't talked to them in like way too long. But I just want to find little ways to take the initiative to go visit somebody or to at least call them on the phone or to go out for coffee with that friend that I honestly want to see more often. I think that's going to make me happier in the long run. A sixth way I'm going to simplify my life in 2024 is I'm planning to travel less. And I feel like this is kind of the opposite of what I normally try to prioritize or what people say to prioritize, because traveling does broaden the mind. It helps you experience new perspectives, new cultures, and traveling is also just a really cool life experience. I say all the time, I'd rather spend my money on traveling than just accumulating more stuff. But I will also say with my MS diagnosis and everything that's been going on, I'm just like kind of tired out of traveling. It really drains me. And then I come back to normal life and I'm even more drained than before I traveled. And I also think it's really expensive. And honestly, I just want to enjoy my home. Like, I'm so grateful to have the beautiful home that I have. And I feel like it helps me appreciate it more by just spending more and more time here and focusing on that, as opposed to constantly itching to travel somewhere new, if that makes any sense. But I just want to see if I can focus more on enjoying where I'm living now, as opposed to constantly focusing on traveling. And part of that maybe means like going out and doing things in other parts of the city that I don't normally go, or just getting out of the house more in a local way. But I just want to see if I can really focus on saying no a little bit more often to especially travel that involves some kind of obligation. Another one is recognizing when it's not the moment to test my limits. So basically, there are times in life where I'm feeling good, I'm feeling energized, I want to push myself to see how far I can go in something. At least for me, especially with my MS diagnosis and all the symptoms associated with that, there are just times where I don't have the bandwidth to test my limits. And I need to be okay with saying, I don't think I can do that right now, or I don't want to try to push myself in that way right now, because realistically, then there are worse ramifications afterwards, like feeling really tired and just not able to function for the week after I push myself. And again, I'm not saying I never want to push myself, but I just mean knowing those times when I'm not feeling well or something doesn't feel right and listening to my gut and saying no. A simple little example of this is the other day I was hanging out with a couple of friends and we were going to dinner and then this short event after. And it was just like a 10-minute walk between dinner and the event, but it was kind of cold outside. I was already fatigued because of my MS, and we were debating whether we should take our cars and drive there or whether we should walk there and walk back after. If I were to walk there and then have to be social at this event, I might just feel so crappy afterward, or for the next 2 days afterward. And I just thought, you know what, if we just take our cars right now, I'm gonna feel so much better after. I won't have to walk back as well. I've already done some physical activity today and I just don't think I can do it right now. And just in that moment, I was like, I think we're gonna drive. And so we drove and it was totally fine and it ended up feeling like the right decision. But sometimes in those situations, I feel the pressure to say, okay, yeah, let's walk. That makes sense. When my body is just not in the space to do that. Being more okay with keeping it casual. I don't need to make a big deal out of it, but just knowing what my limits are. And in those moments, just saying what I need. Another one is to not live based on FOMO or a fear of missing out. If I'm honest, in my young adult life, a lot of what I pursued was out of FOMO, out of fear that I would be missing out on something fun or missing out on a good experience or an opportunity. And in some ways it served me well in that it pushed me to be more social, or it pushed me to strive for things in work that I might not have pushed myself to do. But I also think that as I'm gradually aging, sometimes FOMO can lead me astray from my values. Like now that I am married and I'm settled down a little bit, it's like I don't need to experience everything all the time. And sometimes if I try to experience everything all the time, it's at the detriment of my own priorities and values. And so I feel like part of this is being willing to say no, even if at moments it's a little anxiety provoking, if it feels like it's the right thing to do for me and how I want to be spending my life. A ninth way I'm really going to try to simplify this year is to see my stuff as stuff. That is a huge part of being successful at minimalism, decluttering, and reducing shopping, and just streamlining and simplifying life. If you see your belongings as just that, like physical objects, as opposed to finding some deeper meaning from them or deriving some kind of inner purpose from them, I feel like it's easier to let go and it's easier to prioritize the important things in life. These objects don't have feelings. These objects aren't people, even if they represent people in my life or memories. Like ultimately, they are objects, and I don't need to keep them to remember past parts of my life. I can find other ways to commemorate relationships or to remember things. I can find other things to get excited about and to look forward to. I don't need stuff to make me happy. Anyway, that's most of what I've got for you today, but if you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button. It's a great way to support the channel. And if you want to see more videos like this one, hit the subscribe button below. That's all I've got for you today, but thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!